It is one thing for me to tell you that change can be good and beautiful. It is another to show it to you in a way that feels viscerally true. Because once you have seen and felt it is true, then you will have no choice but to believe it. I sometimes wonder if perhaps I'm too young to be thinking like this. As the days pass by, each given a second of memory, all I'm left with is this vague notion that I did something or another that day. That I'm waiting for something, or someone. But I'm not exactly sure. I'm in my 20s with what seems to be a full complement of years ahead of me, and that should be my focus, and yet I just can't stop thinking about this abstract thing that we all have, that is priceless beyond words, and one of the most important and limited things everyone has, admittedly in varying amounts. I've long been fascinated with what other people enjoy, and particularly why they enjoy it. I find myself far more willing to engage and invest in them if I can understand what makes them who they are, and if they've already identified those things for themselves and are willing to speak to it. One of my favorite questions is this, and every time I've asked it, I always get a, "That's a really good question" statement or another before the person searches for their answer. If I were to want to learn more about who you are, what are 3 pieces of media meaning anything really, a book, movie, show, game, article, piece of music, etc., I would also be able to experience and understand you a little bit more as a result of also having experienced it. I have always been surprised by the answers that are given, and what's more, how no 2 answers are ever repeated. It has always served as one of my favorite questions in conversation. How people tend to answer that question and how they explain it to me often tells me a lot about them, and most often, the sorts of things that they value. Meaning, after all, can only be articulated by the people who deem it so. I've been looking at a number of my more recent videos of late, and an undercurrent that's been consistent throughout all of them has emerged, burrowing itself deep into my thoughts and the media I've been consuming of late. And, on further inspection, it seems it's always been with me, and perhaps attempting to permeate the veil of social noise. Our attention is split in a myriad of ways in our current day. Between the boundless reach of the internet, media networks trying to shill us something, the plethora of content creators vying for your attention, and the glut of media spilling forth in every conceivable medium. We can't experience it all. But what we do experience, whether subconsciously or not, dare I say, becomes the bedrock on which we are built. How much of it seems meaningful to what we're doing at this very moment? Perhaps all of this thinking started some time ago with Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, an anime overwhelmingly intertwined with time and its effects. With a time skip occurring only a few minutes in the first episode, when other series often have a time skip in the middle sections of their plot. And what's more, Frieren's time skip is one of 50 years. I think one of the most fascinating things is the series' usage of montages. In subsequent usage after the first episode, each becomes gradually less in-universe time. In episodes 2 and 3, several months pass by in about a minute. To in episode 18, a 2-month montage in the span of a minute. Time is slowing down for the titular character, she who has lived over 1,000 years, she who has seen generations of humans rise and fall. And all because a certain human reminded her of a crucial thing. To quote Frieren and Himmel, I'm talking about the present. To truly be in the present is a rare gift, and one that very few of us will ever really grasp the weight of. I suppose one of the best ways to put it is that life is what happens while we're waiting for something else, for better or for worse.
Give me a child until he is 7, and I will give you the man.
This Jesuit motto was the basis for a long-running British documentary series called the Up series, as in 7 Up, 7 plus 7 Up, 21 Up, etc. It has filmed for over 50 years, starting from 1964, choosing 14 children, each 7 years old. from a variety of places and social classes, interviewing them sometimes as individuals and sometimes as groups. Some had concrete plans already laid out, some had the mere inklings of becoming something more. Some were just happy to see where they would be in years' time. I started watching this documentary series over the course of several months, starting from 7 Up, and it is somewhat amusing initially before becoming jarring to watch. Beginning with black and white film and fuzzy sound to HD quality all within the same series. But all of these things, the questions, the answers, the children now adults, the special effects, the airing, all revolve around a very specific main aspect. Time. It is because of all of these factors that I don't believe the magic of a series like this can ever be replicated again, especially in our media and fame-crazed age. An interview with the director reveals that there were no contracts signed and no parental permission granted, only verbal agreements and agreements from the schools. The most interesting special effect of all is when a participant answers with the same recurring theme as shown at 7, then 14, then 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, and so on. And it never gets old. It is also one of the few series of which I don't think can be binged. In order to truly sit in it and grasp the series for what it is, to truly feel like you're growing up and participating in this grand experiment we call life as well. Some time is needed between installments for both participant and viewer. Some of them are in dramatically different life stages every 7 years. It feels like I blink and some of them are married. I blink and their parents have passed away. I blink and their children move out. I blink and they have grandchildren. I blink and they're beginning to ponder their own mortality now. The interviewer presses them to be more analytical about their responses in the past and the present, perhaps on occasion to an overly personal degree, to really think about how they've changed or haven't, how they reconcile their past with who they are now, how they themselves feel about participating in the program and its value, considering they've been on it for 56 years, with some of them participating in every installment. How the series documents a concrete snapshot of who they were at certain windows of time, even if they don't quite believe it themselves. The tangible proof of their existence, put on television for all of us to see. I often think about where I was 7 years ago, and how similar and different everything is, including myself. A lifetime of experience occurs from 7 to 21, and through each documentary I watched, I found myself reliving certain moments of my life, interrogating myself as to how I might answer the same questions. It makes me feel as if I, too, am playing part in this documentary series, being interviewed by time itself. For a similar feeling in a far more condensed format, I found myself looking no further than the 2014 movie Boyhood, which is almost 3 hours long and yet spans 12 years of real time, having been filmed from 2002 to 2013. I think about that often. Most people can't even be bothered to commit to something for a day, a month, a year. And with a commitment for 12 years from everyone, from the director to the actors, and the crew. Having been filmed over 12 years, the movie shows not only the progression of time in an adolescent boy's personal life, but the changing of the cultural interests and trends of those years as well. Beyond the gimmick of, oh, it was filmed over 12 years. One of the most interesting concepts to me is the blending of time itself into every aspect of the movie. In the Up series, there's a clear delineation of when the participants get older in each installment. Boyhood doesn't have these clearly defined passages of time. I found myself watching in both fascination and horror as the main character changes, with nary a mention of how old he is from scene to scene, until suddenly he's in his teens, and then into college. All over the span of 3 hours, and what's more, the moments that are filmed aren't normal big life moments that one might think of. A midnight book release, a visit to the grandparents, a weekend camping trip, another day at work, the car ride home from graduation. But the most impactful thing to me is that as the movie progresses in the physical growth of the main characters, the development of their beliefs and mindsets, the ever-changing whirlwind of emotions, and the advent of technology, the shift is clear. Time is moving forward. And whether or not we're directly conscious of it, so are you and I.
You know how everyone's always saying, seize the moment? I don't know, I'm kind of thinking it's the other way around. You know, like, the moment seizes us.
In mid-August of 2023, inspired by the video The Game That Won't Let You See All of It by Jacob Geller, and my first ever playthrough of the game Before Your Eyes, I began what I call the Blink and You'll Miss It project. I started taking videos of varying length, anywhere from 1 to a few seconds every single day, sometimes with multiple blinks, as it were. That video is now 22 minutes long, spanning over the course of about a year and a half. I'm not sure how long I'll do it for, only that I will, but I find myself fascinated with it for the same reasons as the Up series, or Boyhood. For me, it's a conversation with time itself. And in some manner, it's a reminder that these moments I'm seeing on screen were once things I saw. A conscious effort to capture the present, the proof of my existence for no one else but myself. It will never be perfect. Sometimes I let the clock tick until only a few minutes before midnight, leading to something far more boring. At other times, I have evidence of what I did the previous day, but forget to take a video of me doing said evidence in the moment, like writing or making a video. Sometimes it cuts off at weird times, and yet, there's something thrilling about it. A potent reminder of my life as it is. Not as it could have or would have been. Every time I watch it, it never gets old. Hundreds of blink and you'll miss it memories, ones in which I most certainly would have forgotten. The feeling of the standard work week, of which I almost never remember without the weekend compile. Of a date, of the gradual building and diagnosis of my first PC, of the day I left my previous job, of the passing of family members, of a room flooding, of a Christmas party, or of elation in completing the community center in Stardew Valley for the second time. All of these moments, captured in time, a year and a half, played out over the course of 22 minutes, not unlike the 56 years captured over 17 hours in the Up series, or the 12 years captured over 3 hours in Boyhood. At the start of this video, I read out a quote. It is one thing for me to tell you that change can be good and beautiful. It is another for me to show it to you in a way that feels viscerally true, because once you have seen and felt it is true, then you have no choice but to believe it. I've reflected on the constant search for meaning in myself, as I attempt to derive it from all sorts of things, like the creation of these videos. I don't think I'm the only one, and I can't help but believe that you and I, that we were meant to live for so much more. And while I'm no philosopher and can't explain what that means from a metaphysical sense, I get this feeling in this very moment, this is the proof of our existence. Something of which we can't hold on to, that we'll constantly chase and never obtain, but always serve as a confirmation that we were, and are in fact, alive. To be aware of what life is right now and be grateful for it, but to be striving for all the opportunities that have yet to come. I try to tell myself that all the time as I grasp desperately for it. So let's go out there and live. After all, there's no time like the present.